Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please jot down our email address that you see on the screen. Also, that is our new website. I just created a new Beyond the Game website, so go ahead and check that out. Make sure you have our contact. I want you to feel, certainly during this very different time that we're experiencing right now, that you feel welcome and open to reaching out and emailing us and really letting us know how we can help you in any way possible. We have an absolutely fantastic lineup. I'm sure some of you have seen the people that are going to be joining us in this webinar series. These people are doing it for free. And we're just so grateful that they want to come in and give us their insight and their input and help us, help the athletes, help the parents, help the coaches, help anyone who wants to join, take advantage of this opportunity that we're in right now. And this is an opportunity for us. So who am I? Many of you already know who I am and possibly have heard me speak and present and have seen me coach and play, and many of you have grown up kind of with me, and I'm very, very excited that you're here. But my name is Missy West, and I'm originally from upstate New York in a small little village in Malone. Yay to all the Malone people. I'm currently the co-director of Beyond the Game Academy, and several of you know what Beyond the Game Academy is, but some of you don't. And I really want to take this opportunity to kind of give you a taste of what we do and how this kind of all transpired. So I was a college coach for 12 years at the Division II and Division III levels. And no matter where I was coaching, working with a lot of athletes, and I didn't work with just basketball players. I was also a fitness trainer, specifically at SUNY Canton when I first started coaching there. And so I was around athletes all the time. And no matter where I was, I noticed that a lot of them were struggling mentally. They were struggling emotionally, physically, and they were struggling with these things and carrying out their everyday responsibilities. Kids were battling with, they lacked confidence. They weren't sure how to handle adversity. They were walking around with a baggage full of anxiety. And sometimes that anxiety led to depression. And I saw this everywhere. And the other thing that I saw was, athletes, specifically basketball players, whether it be high school or college, is that our athletes weren't being taught the fundamental skills of basketball. They were playing a lot of games, they were going to a lot of tournaments, but the practice piece, the very basic fundamental skill work, was being missed and not taught. And so after seeing this of 12 years of coaching, I decided to walk away. And this was in 2016. Being a college coach, where winning is top priority, and seeing what our kids were struggling with, I knew that I needed to get out on my own, where I could have a greater impact earlier on in their development. When I first started college coaching, I realized quickly that although I'm a competitor and I absolutely love to win, and most of you know that, when I became a coach, that kind of changed. And for me, it was about teaching life lessons. And when it became about winning, I knew that I just needed to make that change. And so I left college coaching, like I said, in 2016, and I teamed up with a UConn Husky, 100% score, right? And with Colleen Healy. And together we constructed Beyond the Game Academy, which is an academy that uses basketball as a platform to teach life lessons. And our mission with the academy is to simply help athletes gain confidence, build their confidence, learn how to be resilient in the midst of their challenges, because there's going to be many, in the midst of their obstacles, and to learn how to lose. Because we all know, especially the adults on here, failure is a part of our life. In fact, we fail more than we actually succeed. And so we need to learn that that's part of our process to achieve great things in our life. And so with the academy, we really focus on the mind, the body, and then basketball. And it's in that order: mind, body, basketball. The impact from this academy has really been tremendous. We've been out there for 2 years now. We've had sold out sessions almost every single year. We're headed towards our 3rd summer of it. And currently, personally, because of this situation that we're in, I am trying to put together possibly a virtual leadership academy, maybe a confidence academy that I can work with athletes, through the Zoom or webinars, and still we can continue to improve. If this is something that you guys might be interested in, please share with me in chat if you think that creating a virtual leadership academy or a virtual confidence academy would help your athletes out. Please let us know in the chat. But that's kind of what I'm working on right now. So continue to check the website and see what we have going on. But with this website tonight, or with a webinar tonight, we put it together for one reason, and that's just to help all of you, right? To help the athletes, the parents, and the coaches get through this really challenging time. And Colleen and I want you to know from the bottoms of our heart is that we feel you. We hurt for you. We feel your sense of loss. And we want you to know that we are here to help in any way that we can. So we hope this webinar series helps give you some tools to kind of cope with the situation that's going on, but also, make the most of what we're all going through. So for the first time ever in all of our lives, we've been benched. Whether we've wanted to or not, we've all been forced to the sideline, right? And watch from the inside of our homes. This has never happened before. Like I said, it's a crazy time, but we can still make the most of this time. And that's what I'm here with you, want to share with you here tonight. So I want to share a personal story, a time when, kind of here I was going along, everything was running smoothly, and slam, right? It was taken away. How I overcame that and continued to be resilient and move on. I want us to work and think about our mindsets and how we can turn this really curveball that we've all been hit with and turn it into an opportunity, because it is an opportunity. And I'm going to keep saying that throughout the night. And then the last thing that I want to share with you is just some action steps that we can put in place tonight, so when we move forward, we can be better prepared for tomorrow. And when we're released out to the world, we're going to be better than what we were when this whole thing started. So I ask you, how are you getting better in your sport? Now, I know we certainly have athletes on here. We also have coaches. We have parents. We have people that are none of the above and just joining in to see what I'm doing, which is awesome. So for you, for many of you, yes, it's your sport. But I ask you, how are you getting better in something that you're passionate at? A skill that you've wanted to for a really long time to get better at. And maybe now is that opportunity to do that. How are you getting better in your sport? And I want you to feel free to chat away. Give people ideas. I know everybody can see this chat. What are you doing at home, right? That is working for you. How are you getting better? See, the truth of the matter is that most of us are really taking no action. And I'm here to tell you that if you are one of those, if you are one of those people that are not taking any action, I want you to know that that is okay. I know it might sound crazy, but I think it's okay. If you have been feeling pretty sluggish, kind of down and out, sad, fearful, scared, uncertain, lonely, right? You're missing your teammates, your friends, you're missing school, maybe for the very first time, you're missing your sport, right? All of these feelings and emotions are okay for you to feel. And I don't think it's okay just to kind of brush them aside. I hear a lot of, and I've heard a lot of throughout my entire athletic career, you got to move on, get over it and move on. I'm not sure that's the best thing that we can be doing for ourselves In fact, I think we need to acknowledge the feelings that we're having and be very aware of that sadness, that sense of loss, the loneliness, the missing of our teammates, our friends, our family members, that all this has caused us. See, I think we really need to become very aware of our feelings and emotions. And it's okay that you haven't taken action yet. Those from Beyond the Game Academy know that the power of the word yet. So I'm asking you right now that if you have been this person, this athlete, this parent that hasn't taken any action, and you felt really bad and you're feeling sorry for people and everything, that's fine. But I want us tonight, right now, to move past kind of this poor me mentality and find a way to make the most of this opportunity. So as all of you know, I did go and play college at Duke, and I want to backtrack just a little bit. I was a three-sport athlete in high school. I played soccer, softball, and basketball. And I was Miss New York State in softball and in basketball, and I decided that I was going to go to Duke University on a full athletic scholarship. I was really, really excited, but I'm not going to lie. I was petrified. I was scared. I think some people, some when they think of Missy West, they think, well, she's brave and she's courageous and she just goes and she does. And that I don't have these insecurities. And for sure, when I signed to go to Duke, I was so excited, but also I was so scared. But anyways, I ended up going to Duke, and before the season even started, I was voted preseason rookie of the year in the ACC. That's me. The ACC is the conference that Duke played in. And so you can imagine, again, I was so excited. I couldn't believe it. But I also certainly felt that pressure, right? That pressure to perform and be at peak performance at all times. I went through my freshman year and did pretty well. I actually started kind of off and on throughout the year. We had a pretty decent year. Finally Duke was being put on the map. It wasn't just about Duke men's basketball. It was also Duke women's basketball now. And I was really proud to be a part of that building program at the time, but went through my whole freshman year completely fine, healthy, strong, feeling great. We make it to the Sweet 16. We're at Illinois. I will never forget it. It's the day before the Sweet 16 game, and we're in practice. And mind you, I have never been injured before. Certainly, I've had bumps and bruises. I've had a black eye where I wore aqua blue goggles. I looked absolutely ridiculous, but I would do anything to play. It didn't matter. I know Christy Pupor, you're over there laughing at me right now, one of my teammates, because I did look silly, but I didn't care. But that was the only injury that I ever had. A few sprained ankles, nothing major. And so we're in the Sweet 16, and I remember we're practicing so hard and we're so fired up. And all of a sudden, from 1 second to the next, I'm running down the floor and my leg just gives out on me and I fall crashing to the ground. And the interesting thing is that it didn't cause a lot of pain. I actually kind of got up and, thought to myself, like, what the heck just happened? That was very strange. And, basketball is a game of seconds, right? You don't have time to sit there and put your head down and worry about poor me. You got to get up and you got to keep moving, or else they move without you and you get sent to the sideline. And so I got up and I kept, working at it. And the next time down the floor again, boom, my knee locked up on me and down to the floor I went again. I got back up again and I still not a lot of pain, started running again. And for the third time, found myself on the ground. I remember looking over to my coach, Gail Geston, who was an amazing coach. And I said, Coach, I need a sub. So she subbed a player in for me and I went running over to my athletic trainer. I said, Joe, something's wrong. Something's not right. My leg keeps on giving out. I'm not in a lot of pain, but he gave me the whole ACL test and everything. And he hit a spot right underneath my kneecap as he was doing all these tests. And it literally shot me through the roof. And I will never forget the look in his eyes. He looked me directly in the eye and he said, Miss, this is really bad. And he said, I don't know if you're ever going to be able to play basketball again. You can imagine Sweet 16, first time ever. I worked so hard to get there. And to hear the words from my athletic trainer that there's a chance where I might never be able to play again. And so I didn't get to play in that Sweet 16 game. I was sidelined. I was benched. Everything that I had going for me, felt like it was taken away in a matter of a millisecond. This happened in March. I would go on and have my first knee surgery. So what happened was I actually had a lesion right underneath my kneecap. So everything in my knee was just bone on bone. They call it like, kind of like an overuse injury. Didn't tear an ACL, MCL, LCL, all of that was intact. But my bones were just grinding on each other. And so I had this surgery in April. And, it was during this time that I really fell into this deep, really dark depression where, I got that poor me. Why me? How can this be happening to me? So many people have these expectations that I'm going to be doing such great things, that I'm going to be able to make it to the WNBA. I had everything right there in the palm of my hands. And yet all of it was taken away. And so I had so much self-doubt. I remember I actually stayed at Duke that summer after my freshman year, and I took classes, and I would literally go to physical therapy. And I would go from physical therapy to my class, and I would go from my class and I would grab some food, and I would grab some food to go to the library and get my study in. And then a lot of times I was in bed by 6:30 at night because I didn't know who Missy West was without basketball. I'll never forget how I felt. It was awful. And so the interesting thing, the cool thing that happened was that during this time, during that summer in 1997, if you remember, if you know anything about Duke basketball, Coach Mike Krzyzewski actually went through several back surgeries in the mid-90s. So over the summer, he did a lot of physical therapy himself. And I would find myself, doing physical therapy with Coach Krzyzewski. I mean, who would have thought that I would have these moments where I'm sitting next to him, he's on one machine, I'm on another, where he's working out his back, I'm working out my knee, and we're just talking about everyday happenings. And I just remember sitting there like, I am talking to one of the best coaches in the world. So when I look at my injury now, going through that, what an amazing opportunity. If I never was injured, that would have never happened. So anyways, it was during this summer, that summer where we realized it was going to probably take me a good year to recover from this injury. So my coach, Gail Geston-Course, offered me an opportunity to redshirt my sophomore year. And for those that don't know what redshirting simply means that I could still practice, I could still work out with a team, I could still travel with the team, but I could not put on a Duke uniform. You can imagine how challenging and devastating this was for me. This is how my entire sophomore year was. I remember every time a game came around and I couldn't throw that uniform on, it was a constant reminder, right, of my injury and where I was at. Even harder was that it seemed every time that I would get to the point where I was able to practice with the team again, I would find myself struggling with pain and swelling and dealing with a lot of scar tissue issues, which led to me having to have 2 more surgeries one throughout my sophomore year and one at the beginning of my junior year. I was benched for 2 full years at Duke from injury. Now, the easiest thing for me to do at this time would have been to pack it up and quit, right? How many times have we been there where we don't think we can take another day of it? And that's what would have been the easiest thing for me to do. The doctors told me that after my 3rd surgery, that would be his final attempt. If it didn't work, that my basketball career would absolutely be over. And I knew, at the time, my coaches were starting to doubt my return. And I know for sure my teammates, I knew they couldn't count on me to come back and be ready to play. But again, even through this darkness that I was experiencing, there's still a lot of great things that happened throughout my 2 years of injury. Sure, I went through that sadness. I shed many tears. I called my mom nearly every single night, fell into that deep depression, said, "Why me?" more times than I can count. But something happened and a light bulb went off. I told myself that I wasn't going to waste any more time feeling sorry for myself. I was at a great university that many would die to be at. I had incredible teammates. I had amazing coaches. I had family and friends who supported me. So it was time for me to acknowledge my feelings, but take advantage of the opportunity that has been given to me. I spent hours, hours and hours and hours in physical therapy. I told myself I may never be the fastest person on my team, but I was going to be the most in shape on the team. I could control that. I cut off about 20 pounds. I lost about 20 pounds. I did gain a few extra pounds my freshman year. So I cut 20 pounds. I lifted weights all the time on the regular. I did additional conditioning workouts any chance that I could. If I found myself where I couldn't run, and I couldn't a lot of times, most of the time you found me on stationary bikes. I remember rolling them out in practice, and when my teammates were running up and down the floor while I was pedaling just as fast as I could. And if I couldn't use my legs right after a surgery, well, I was on that arm bike. That was my workout. And I spent hours doing that. I wanted my teammates and my coaches to know that whenever I was going to be given the opportunity to play again, that I would be ready. The end of my junior year, so I just went 2 years without playing a single second in a game. A year, like I said, I found myself on the bench. I was awarded the Heart and Hustle Award. That award to me meant more than any point that I've ever scored in my entire life. It meant more than any MVP, any Hall of Fame. All of that doesn't even compare to what that award meant to me. See, this award meant to me that I belonged. I earned that belonging on this team. Even in the midst of injury, I was valued and respected by my coaches and teammates because I've earned it. I didn't quit. I put in that extra time. I worked at it. I went home and sulked in my thoughts and what said, poor me, but when I was out in front of them, I gave them everything that I had. They recognized my grit and my determination to fight the fight, to be there for them on the sidelines when I couldn't play a single minute. When my senior year finally came around, I was voted captain of the Duke women's basketball team. This girl from upstate New York, right? A lot of you are from the North Country. My teammates and coaches voted me for captain. They trusted me enough to give me that responsibility. And also, as I went through my senior year and we won our first ACC championship title, I would earn my second Heart and Hustle Award and be offered to come back my 5th year to play. See, even though I redshirted my sophomore year, and you're given 4 years of NCAA eligibility, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to be offered that 5th year back. You have to earn it. And I earned it. And it was something that I was really proud of. You know, I look back on my career at Duke and I thank God every minute that I didn't quit. That even in the midst of all of my ups and downs, all the surgeries, right? All the doubts, people telling me I would never play again, that I should just pack it up, that I found a way to stick with it. And it was hard. This experience taught me and prepared me for real life. It prepared me for this moment that we're experiencing here today, when we're all on the sidelines and we're benched and we might just want to pack it up. I have learned how to look at an obstacle, a challenge, right? A loss. I've lost so many games. I've missed so many shots, but I've learned to take these failures, these challenges, these curveballs, and find opportunity within them. And this is really what I'm asking of all of you tonight. In the midst of this pandemic, when you're all at home and you're missing your friends and your teammates, are you finding the opportunity within? I ask this of you. Are you finding that opportunity within, or are you finding yourself, doing your schoolwork, spending all your time on video games or Netflix? Are you really making the most of this opportunity to better yourself? Oops, sorry, wrong way. I know first of all, let me tell you, for the last 4 weeks, I haven't been outdoors in 4 weeks. So Colleen and I live in a high rise, and we're up on the 31st floor. And you have to get in an elevator to get downstairs. And I'm actually a high risk patient. I have some autoimmune issues going on, and I'm on an immunosuppressant. And so I won't even take the risk and go on the elevator. So my only outdoors has been out on our balcony, breathing that fresh air, which has been fine, because I will tell you, I really have been making the most of this opportunity. I've been watching a ton of webinars. Ladies and gentlemen, there are a million free webinars for you to be learning new things, learning new skills. I encourage you to do some Google searches and find those free webinars. There's just so much out there for us to be learning. People are so giving of their time. Everything, like I said, is free. So I really encourage you to do that. But about 2 weeks ago, I actually listened to a webinar of John Maxwell. And if you don't know John Maxwell, he's actually an author, and he's excellent at leadership, at communication. He's written a ton of books. Just if you ever want to learn about leadership, he's the go-to guy. But I watched this webinar from him, and a few things stuck out. And he talked about, how to turn crisis into opportunity. And he said, every crisis, every curveball, every obstacle, right, all the things that we're going through right now, in our past has led to our advantage. I want you to think about that for a minute. Think about all the great things that have happened in your life. I know all the great things that have happened in my life, all the Hall of Fames, the MVPs, the relationships that I've had, all of that has happened in the midst of enormous failures. Many, many curveballs, right? Obstacles being thrown at me left and right. And it's through those obstacles. My mom once told me that 19 failures equals 1 success. And I'm a total believer in that. In fact, I think it's more failures to equal 1 success. But a lot of our challenges, what comes out at the other end is greatness, right? It's really cool things that end up happening. We learn from those challenges, right? In a crisis, he talks about it allows us to cut out all of our non-essentials. I think most of you are really realizing that right now, right? We're seeing how important relationships are, our teammates are, our coaches, how much we love sports, right? How much we love going to class. We now are so grateful for our teachers and all of the work that they're doing. We love that. We miss that connection. And those are the things that most of you, I would guess, are thinking about right now. It's not the material things. It's not the things that you want, right? It's not those unnecessary things. What you're probably craving right now is you want to be able to hang out with your friend. You want to be able to go to a practice, right, in your spring season, or that summer league youth basketball game. Those are the things that you want to be doing. And I think we realize in a moment of our challenges and this crisis that we're learning what's truly important for us. A crisis identifies leaders. Leaders stand up and stand out during challenges. And I know this to be true. A lot of times you really can find out who is the leader on your team, in your company, in your family, right? When they're challenged with something, do they step up to the plate? All right? Or do they back away? Do they quit? Do they deny? Do they become, just kind of fade away? I ask you through the midst of this, be a leader. Reach out to your friends, reach out to your teammates, check on everybody, give of your time, give as much as you possibly can, help everyone through this. We're all on the same boat, trying to get through it together. So don't sulk anymore. Give to others. And that just might be a phone call, checking in on someone, right? Stand up and be that leader. And then the last one, he says, crisis causes change. It absolutely, I think of my injury. I get asked, the question all the time, hey, Miss, if you could do the whole Duke experience all over again, would you do it? Going through the injuries, going through some of the challenges that I did, would you do it all over again? In a heartbeat, I would. In a heartbeat, I would. Because it taught me how to be a confident woman, to be strong, that I can be resilient, that when I get knocked down, I'm not knocked out. Sure, certainly I've been embarrassed. I've been ashamed. I've made some poor decisions, but I know that I can keep getting up and keep moving forward. I've learned how to be brave, courageous, and vulnerable. And I think my obstacles and challenges, the times that I've been, not knocked back on my butt, that has taught me how to change, how to overcome, how to put myself out there. I think I've done several Ironmans races, which is a 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike, and then you run a marathon, 26.7 miles, all in one day. Colleen has done 3, I've done 2. I just did New York City Marathon in 2018. I've done a lot of crazy races. I've put my body to the test. Why? Because I've had my legs taken from me. I no longer take my health and my physical body for granted. I challenge myself. I step up to the plate, even if I've been knocked down, to see what I've got, to see what I'm made of, see what kind of guts I still have in me. And it's all because of the times that I've been knocked down. I've also, last week, I watched a webinar on John Gordon. John Gordon is huge on positive leadership. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's also an author. Listen, if you need some great reads, he's one of them. He has a series of books. One of his first books out was called The Energy Bus. Awesome. It's a simple read. You'll get through it in a couple days, but so powerful. Anyways, in his webinar, there was one thing that really stuck out to me. And he said, you need to talk to yourself rather than listen to yourself. And I couldn't help think how this impacted me in my life right now. See, people think, like I said, that I'm so confident that, I just have no insecurities and, I'm just so brave. And the truth of the matter is, I've done a lot of presentations, but I will tell you, even getting ready for this webinar tonight, I was scared to death. And there's times where I find myself, like last night, sitting and just listening to myself. And when I find myself listening to myself, the thoughts that are going through my head is, I can't do this. I'm not confident. I am not worthy. Who's going to want to listen to me? What do I have good enough to share? Right? Who's going to join this webinar? What if nobody wants to join? And this becomes this vicious cycle. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. You guys have all been there. We've all had these moments where it's just this self-doubt, I've just lost a game. I missed a wide open layup. Oh my gosh, I just turned the ball over, and we listen to ourselves, and it's just, most of the time it's all negative. But if you recognize when that's happening, like for me last night, when I recognized I was telling myself that I wasn't good enough, that no one's going to show up today, right? That I'm not a good presenter. All this stuff is roaming through my mind. I stopped it. And this is what I do all the time now. And this is what I ask all of you to do. Recognize in those moments of self-doubt. They're true feelings. They're real. Don't just dismiss them. Say, I got to get over it. No, acknowledge it. And then what I challenge you to do is talk to yourself. What do I mean by this? See, when I do this self-doubt and I shut it down, say, okay, These are true feelings. I'm very anxious right now. I know I'm not going to sleep tonight, but I close my eyes and I sit there and I go, I can, I will, I'm strong, I'm brave, I'm courageous. People will show up. I have a story to tell worth sharing. And I start saying these things to myself. And one of the biggest things that I say to myself is that I am enough. All the things that I want to accomplish in my life, I have it within me. It's inside of me. It's enough. I might have to work harder than some other people. I might have to put in some extra time, but it's in me. I am enough. I am brave. I am courageous. I can do this. I'm confident. You showed up tonight, and here I am. And it scared me to death last night. So talk to yourself. Recognize your emotions and feelings. They're real. But change that. Shift your mindset from those challenges and those self-doubt to opportunity. Many of you probably remember this situation. This is Chesley. I always mispronounce his name. Chesley Sullenberger. See, back in 2009, for those that don't know, there was an American airline flight that took off from the LaGuardia airport. There was 155 passengers on board. And as soon as it took off, within a few minutes, or excuse me, let me go back, Sully. Sully was the pilot of this plane, Sully Sullenberger. So they take off from the LaGuardia airport, they're in flight, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they hit a flock of geese. The flock of geese get caught in the engine. And all of a sudden, Sully has to make a split-second decision. In fact, he had 208 seconds to decide how he was going to land this place safely so everyone would survive. He was told by the tower to turn around and park in and try to land the plane back at LaGuardia Airport. But he knew from his experience, right, from his education and from his training, that he wouldn't be able to make it back to the airport to land at LaGuardia. And he decided in that 208 seconds that he was going to land in the Hudson River in New York City on January 15th of 2009. And he did this successfully. Everyone survived. There was only minor injuries that happened. And so miraculously, he became a hero. He wasn't expecting this. He was expecting to have a safe flight to go wherever they were headed, right? And out of the blue, things changed. And he had an interview with Katie Couric, after everyone was just amazed of how he landed this plane. And he said, and Katie said, how did you do it? How did you know enough to land this plane safely in the Hudson River? And he said, one way of looking at this might be that for 42 years, I've been making small, regular deposits into this bank of experience, education, and training. And on January 15th, the balance was sufficient so that I could make a very large withdrawal. Colleen and I talk about all the time, and we talk about this with our kids, because a lot of times we find ourselves taking. And we need to make sure that we're depositing in that bank, and we're depositing, right? And we're working on our skills so we're prepared for what lies ahead. We need to deposit in that ATM machine. We need to continue to work on our skills so we're ready for that opportunity, right? So when the time is right, when we're all released back out to the world again, when we're able to reunite with our teammates and start our sports again, when we're able to meet with our classmates, are we going to be ready to make that withdrawal? Are we going to have enough experience? Are we going to learn a new skill, right, to take that withdrawal? Or are we simply going to empty the bank? Are we just going to continue to tank and do nothing from this curveball that we're all facing? And so some action steps that we can kind of take from all of this. First and foremost, I really encourage you to plan your day, right? Maybe before this, you didn't really have any kind of plan. You were all over the place. You're kind of just getting through your days. You're worried about the what ifs, right? The things that have been taken away. What I want you to do starting tonight is start planning your days moving forward so you can make the most of this opportunity that we have in front of us. And I want you to plan those things by writing it down. See, when I left college coaching and I started working from home, I found myself more often than not procrastinating, feeling unorganized, not having any kind of direction, right? I would wake up with this great idea, an idea that I was going to accomplish that day. And before I knew it, I was going and doing a million other things that were less important and less productive, and the day would get away from me. Even in developing, I'm going to be honest, in developing this academy, I would wake up with all these great ideas, but because I didn't write it down, and I'll tell you, a million people have told me to write it down. All of my mentors tell me to write it down. Colleen every day tells me to write it down, right? So when I didn't write it down, because I didn't plan out my day exactly how I wanted to unfold, most of the time, I became paralyzed. I became paralyzed thinking of all of the stuff that I had to do that day, that I wanted to do that day. And because there was so many ideas, so many things that I wanted to do, I did nothing at all. But once I started planning out my days, reviewing my schedule every night prior to going to bed, making changes if something came about during the week, this is when I actually accomplished the most. This is when I got our Beyond the Game Academy website created. This is when I got the webinar started. And so I want to share what my weekly schedule, and this is my honest weekly schedule of what it looks like for this week. All I did was print it off, a weekly calendar offline, and I handwrite, and you can do this digitally. You can do this all on your phone, in your calendar, whatever it is. But you can see how when I wake up, I know from 7 to 9 in the morning, I'm going to spend 20 minutes of meditation. I'm a strong believer in meditation. I'm going to take some time to read the book that I'm currently reading called Gutsy Women. I encourage every female to read this book. It's awesome. It motivates me every single day. It literally uplifts me and gets me so focused for the day. And I also know during that time, I'm going to eat my breakfast. So I'm going to meditate. I'm going to read a couple chapters in the book that I'm currently reading, and I'm going to eat breakfast. And after that time, I'm going to sit down. And you can see for today, my morning, first of all, it was my niece's birthday, Madison's 18th birthday. Happy birthday, Madison. But for the morning, I meditated, I read my book, I ate breakfast, and then I rehearsed this presentation. I rehearsed it, and I rehearsed it, and I rehearsed it. Then after that, I'm a huge believer in self-care, taking care of ourselves. I feel that we have value, that we are worth it, to take time for ourselves, to take care of us. And so I am every day, for the most part, about 6 days a week, I find at least an hour and a half to work out. Now I'm being creative right now. Everything for me is done in my living room or on my bike trainer. I am lifting weights, throwing things around, right? Using my body in all these different ways. I'm doing yoga, you name it. I'm doing HIIT training, high intensity interval training, you name it, I'm doing it. I'm looking online, whatever they got out there, I'm doing, but I'm making sure I'm making time for myself, right? And then I made sure everything was set for Zoom, right? I relaxed and had dinner. I meditated before I hit start for this webinar. But this is what I mean by planning out your day. Is it going to be perfect? Absolutely not. You're going to write things down and maybe you're not going to get to it. But if you don't write anything down at all, something that you can visually see in front of you, most likely than not, it's not going to get done. It's just not going to get done. I've experienced it time and time again. So I encourage you to make a plan. Now, athletes, now that you've made this plan, right? A lot of us right now, we would be about to enter a spring season, or some of us are in AAU season, or we're playing spring ball, but you have practices normally. Just because you're home doesn't mean that you just don't practice your sport, especially if you want to get better and you don't want to lose this time. So I said, block off, whatever practice time you typically have, that is your time to work on your skill. That's your time to get better. A lot of times it's right after school, so it's from 3 to 5 p.m. That is your time to get better. And parents, I encourage you, maybe if your child is out there from 3 to 5 working on their skill, maybe that's the time where you get in your workout or you work on a skill that you've wanted to get better at. Right? This is such a strange and unique time that we're able to actually do a lot of things that we probably have never given ourselves time to do before. So use that time wisely. And then once you've blocked that time, I want you to commit to it. Right? Don't block that time and then your friends call you during that time and interrupts and things happen. Try to really commit to that time. That is your time. Make sure your brothers and your sisters and your friends and your coaches and everybody knows it. So during that time, now that we got the time, the next thing that we do is we see it. What do I mean by we see it? For about 20 to 30 minutes out of that practice, I want you to learn something new. I want you to read something. I want you to watch something. I want you to go to YouTube and type in a skill that you've wanted to get better at. Maybe you want to get quicker footwork. Maybe you wanted to get better at scoring a left-handed layup. Whatever it is, get on Google, type that in, and you'll notice all of the skill, all of the YouTube videos that pop up. I want you to study those things. Maybe it's somebody that you really look up to, a Breanna Stewart, right? A LeBron James, whoever it might be, a Derek Jeter. Look up that person. What did they do to become the player that they are? What are some drills and skills that you might be able to learn from them? Read it, 20 minutes, that's it, out of the practice. You guys all love social media, I know it. Yesterday I did a hashtag basketball drills. And I hit search. And there are millions of basketball drills that you can watch to get better at. So see it, really zone in, learn a new drill, learn how to get better at that skill. You don't have a coach telling you now. So what are you going to do? Make an excuse not to do it? Or are you going to find a way to figure it out? Right? And then the second thing that I ask you to do is imagine it. So you've watched that skill. Now I want you to visualize it. I want you to, what's the word that I'm thinking of? I want you to do a mental rehearsal of that skill that you just watched. In my mind, I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to rehearse that skill. And you're going to put yourself, it's going to be you doing the skill and you're going to do it awesome. You're going to be great at it. If it's a shooting drill, you're going to make every single shot. You're going to have perfect form. You're going to have that beef formation. If it's a ball handling drill, you're low, right? You never lose control over the ball. You're going to watch yourself do it so well that you're going to start to believe that you can actually do it. So imagine it, mentally rehearse it. Now, this may mean you might have to go out. You're going to find a quiet place, close your eyes, right? And find, even 5 to 10 minutes to really close your eyes and just zone on that skill and watch yourself do it well. Watch you do it really well. And if you start to visualize, and you're in your own head and you're starting to listen to yourself, right? And the self-doubt starts to come, shut it off. I'm capable, I am enough. It's within me. I'm going to make every shot. And you do, and you watch yourself do that. So once you've done that for 5 to 10 minutes, now I want you to get out and do it. There's a famous quote from Nelson Mandela. He said, "Vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes the time. Vision with action can change the world." So if you block off time, if you see it, you visualize it, you mentally rehearse the skill, you've done it well in your mind, and then you go out and practice it, you're going to come out stronger and better than when this whole pandemic started. This practice, this 30 to 45 minutes of practice of action, it needs to be deliberate. And what do I mean by deliberate? It needs to be deliberate practice. It means it needs to be purposeful and systematic. Meaning that if you're going to go out and you say you're going to go work on shooting, have a specific drill in mind. Like I said, you've already watched that YouTube video on it. Make sure you know the number of repetitions that you want to take. Maybe have kind of the number of makes that you want to make before you move on to that next drill. Right? And then lastly, the most important thing is, a lot of things like, how do I stay in great condition? Do a skill and a drill, gain speed. You don't have to do anything fancy or crazy to stay in great shape. Go out, don't just shoot around, right? Put in the time, I got in 100 shots today. Go in with deliberate practice and then do everything out there at game speed. Your heart should be racing. You should, even up north, no matter how cold it is, you should crack a sweat. It should be a workout for you. And so after you've put action to it, the next step is you're going to write this down. You're going to write it down in your daily planner what you did. How many shots did you take? Well, I went 10 for 20 from the free throw line. I'm going to write this down. Why am I going to write it down? Because tomorrow when I go out and work on my free throw shot, 10 is my guide. I'm going to try to beat that every single day. If I don't write it down, I don't know what I've done. And then I can't compete against that, right? And so once you've written it down, the next step that I want you to do, you're not done practice yet. You're going to call a teammate. You're going to have an accountability teammate who you're going to call and say, "Hey, Sophie, this is what I did today. I went out, I did, 5 shots, 5 spots. I made 20 out of 25. I also did some agility work, worked my foot quickness. Hey, what did you do?" "Yeah, Addie, I went out and I worked on my foot quickness and I really worked on my rebounding. I learned this new drill. I'll have to share it with you. I'll email it to you. I'll text it to you. And maybe you can work on that tomorrow." But you hold each other accountable. Find that accountability teammate. Find somebody on your team that can, keep you to it. And so those are the action steps that I wanted to share with you tonight. And John Gordon has this great quote. I love it. You can either rise and shine, or you can rise and whine. It's really up to you. This is certainly, like I said, I feel for you. This is really hard times for all of us. But we can do this every day. Do we want to rise and shine? Do we want to make the most of our days? Or are we going to rise and whine? I challenge you to rise and shine. And so I kind of want to end tonight by just saying that we believe, Beyond the Game Academy believes, and know, all of you, I don't care, adult, a young athlete, whoever you are out there, we know that you can do hard things. We know you can do hard things. We believe that you can do hard things tomorrow morning. But go ahead, Colleen. What do we got out there?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say regarding resilience, I believe that resilience is not born, it's built. So we are wired to survive and thrive. I mean, we're all born with this courage that Missy had, some of the stories that I'll share next week. It's all in us. We just have to be willing to dig in and find it. So there's nothing unique inside of Missy and I that you don't have. You all have that. We were born that way to find that resilience, but you have to keep putting yourself in those situations and keep taking those chances, right? By applying deliberate practice, getting better, try out for the team, try out for the play, try out. Sometimes you make it, sometimes you won't. And each time you don't, you learn from it and you survive. And you say, well, that wasn't so bad. So I didn't make the team. Here are the things I need to do. That's what builds resilience. It just doesn't show up. You don't wake up one day and all of a sudden you have courage. You don't wake up someday and all of a sudden you're resilient. You build it over time, just like your ball handling drills, just like spelling, just like mathematics, everything that you've gotten better at. You didn't, you weren't born and at 1 year old, all of a sudden you were shooting threes, right? There was a time where you threw the ball up with two hands as a little girl or boy. And then you got to back away and you started now shooting jumpers. It's the same thing, resilience. It's a skill.
Absolutely.
So, well, we had a question about when is it time to quit? And it's such a great question. And quite frankly, it's a complex question if I don't know the details, because it's an individual decision. But if you're talking about quitting sport, you have to ask yourself why you were playing to begin with. Why did I start playing sport? I mean, because when we're not doing well, whether we're sick or we're failing or we're not playing, we get emotional and we start making decisions based on emotion. And that's really difficult when you're younger, to step away from that emotion of anger, disappointment, or sadness and ask yourself the question, why do I play? Why do I play? I want to get stronger. I love the friendships. I love the teamwork. I love the travel. I love the feeling of connectedness. I think before you quit anything, first of all, ask why you were doing whatever that was, whether that was debate, whether that was band. Why did you do it to begin with? Because I know I loved the game, but I loved my teammates even more, playing that game and making memories. So that's the first thing that I would ask you. Secondly, don't quit in the middle of anything. This is not for parents and jobs. It's a whole other question. I've left jobs and I've quit things, and you'll learn next week that I left 2 schools before I went to UConn. But I was following my path. They were great schools, and I was starting and I was scoring a lot of points. All the things that someone might think were successful, I had my own path of what success would be for me. So I know that's a real complex answer to the question, but you have to ask yourself why. Don't ever quit in the middle. See things through. And I would ask parents the same thing. If you sign up for a season and things aren't going well, make sure you see it through, and parents do the same thing. I read a great book called Grit by Angela Duckworth, and she talks a lot about building resilience. But one thing they do as a family is everyone signs up to do something different, moms, dads, and the kids. And they all have to stick through it through that season or however long it is, whether it's running a 5K for mom or it's playing soccer for one of the kids. And they may not be good at any of it, but they all agree we're going to see it to the end. And so I don't know the details about your quitting. I don't know if you're injured. I'm not sure if you're just disappointed. I don't know if you're distracted with something else that's really your desire, if it's a different sport, or maybe it's academics. It's hard to answer the question, but you have to ask yourself more questions of why you're there to begin with. And I would suggest to see it through to the end and never quit without something better. Don't quit for free time. Quit for something that's better for me and better for my path.
Right. So I got a question that was asked. When things were rough for you, talking to me, when things were rough for you, how did you cope, and what advice would you give to others who may be going through a similar situation? And I think I kind of shared that already, kind of what I did. I just flipped the switch. I got tired of feeling poor me. I got tired of being around my teammates and bringing them down. They knew that I was hurting. They knew that I was struggling, and I wasn't being the best teammate that I could be because I was a drag, right? And so I just got tired of disappointing them. And I realized I was disappointing myself, and I was wasting valuable time. And so I kind of, just flipped that switch. And I said, okay, it's really unfortunate. This is really hard for me to handle. And it was. But how was I going to make the most of it? Right? I got to continue to be there for my teammates and just show up. And so I decided, that I would do that. I had another question. After injury, did you ever feel the same? And interesting thing is, if you ask me that question, like right now, I feel the best I've ever felt, ever in my life. But I certainly, after 3 knee surgeries, I was never super speedy as it was, but I was a lot slower, and I knew that I was a lot slower. So to compromise for that, I worked tirelessly shooting. I knew that if I wasn't going to be super speedy out on the floor, that I had to be able to hit my shot. I had to have a high percentage shot. right? And I needed to be a great teammate. If I was going to bring value to that team, I had to be a huge offensive threat because speed was my weakness. I also knew that I had to be one of the strongest players on the team physically. No one was going to push me around on the floor. That's how I was going to make up for my lack of speed. So, did I fully recover from it? I don't, some people fully recover from it. I would say it changed me, but it changed me really for the better. And right now I feel absolutely fantastic. Well,
Struggles that
here's one. We talked about this, Colleen. How do I help my daughter be less nervous for games?
Yes, that's a good one.
Right? We get that a lot. How do I build confidence? How do I have my kids have confidence in themselves? And also, like, they're so nervous that they almost panic to start a game and they don't even want to go out there. So how do we address that? What would you say to that, Colleen?
Well, I'll say this. I still get nervous before a big presentation. That's normal when you care. I actually had a boss make fun of me once because he said, "How do you feel?" I was going into a big presentation. I said, "I'm nervous." He's like, "I thought when you're good, you're not nervous." I said, "No, when you care, you do get nervous." And so you just want to do well. The thing is, don't be worried about the nerves. Don't let the nerves get in the way of getting on the court, because everybody's nervous. If you're on the line and for the game winning shot, whoever's on the line, they're nervous. And I'm older and I still get nervous when there's something I really want. I watch my nieces and nephews play games and I get nervous. I'm not even playing and I still get nervous. But it doesn't stop me from doing the things I want to do. I still want to see if I can do it. So I get out there. And I think it's just important to know that no matter if the ball goes in or it drops out, your teammates are going to support you. The community is going to support you. Your high school is going to support you. So what do you do from there? You're going to survive. Sure, you might get embarrassed. You might be sad. The next day you say, what did I learn from that? What do I need to practice? So next time I'm on the line, I have even more confidence. I lost last time and I still survived. I'm still here. The important part is you get back on the line. So nervousness is normal, but don't ever let it stop you from doing something you really want. Quite frankly, if you're nervous, it just shows you really want to be there and you really want to do well.
Right. Well, we will wrap that up. I know there's still some people listening in. If we didn't get to your question and you're still there, please email me. Write the BTGA 2520, email us, and I will make sure that I answer all your questions the best that I possibly can. Hopefully, again, you guys tune in next Wednesday at 6:30 to hear Colleen present her webinar. But thank you so much for sharing. Signing off from Tampa, Florida.